a negative. I don't know, you probably can't see, but there's a flying saucer in there. And
You
this
should have that printed.
like how can you fake that? There
The,
probably
the,
is a way, but I don't know. But I think
it
it's really cool. And I
it
will.
looks like
Lee and Richard, are you believers?
I actually am not. I'm going to say it this way. Nobody's convinced me that they don't exist.
I think that's a very good answer. I think I saw one. I saw something one time out the window in a building in Emory, but who knows?
My neighbor's a pilot, and he said he saw something go in front of his plane one time. So, and it's a big, vast universe. How can we say we're the only forms of life?
Sure.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Rare Book Cafe, the book lovers rendezvous. Oh man, I'm so excited. We've been off for a week, and I'm glad to be back. I never thought I'd be glad to be back on this show, but I missed it. How about you, Lee?
Well, certainly I missed it too. I missed you, and I, of course, missed our co-host, Richard Mori of Mori Rare Books. I think today Richard feels like he has to Richard brings us people, and today he has brought us one of his exhibitors from the Boston Shadow Show that's coming up in early November, Stacy Waldman of House of Mirth Photos. Stacy does not sell books, so we are really going off on a tangent this morning.
Stacy, I understand you're right down the road from me in East Hampton, right down the road from Amherst.
That's right. That's where I am.
Do you have an open shop?
I have a shop, but it's open by appointment or chance. And if you want an appointment, if you want a chance, you better make an appointment. But I'm bummed.
All right. Well, I'll probably be down there to see you one of these days.
Okay.
Hey, Lee, before we get started, I got to show you this. Look at this present that I got. The new shirt with the iconic painting of Hokusai's The Great Wave of Kanagawa. So now when I'm walking down the street, people are going to say, the blue wave is coming.
Yes, well, you can take a picture of yourself on Facebook or Instagram this week wearing your shirt. That's very nice. I should have worn my cat shirt this morning.
All right, not too much politics on the show, but just enough subtlety. Stacy, what have you got for us today? I understand you're going to be in Richard's upcoming show in the Shadow Show in Boston.
I am, and I sell mostly photography and ephemera, and I'm excited about this piece. This is, I found it in Brimfield 2 weeks ago. It's a board, can you see it? And it's got photos of UFOs, and it was all this one collector or this UFO hunter. He wrote a couple of books on UFOs, and I think, let me see.
They're all original photographs?
They're all photographs. Now, some of these guys used to trade photos. They were like, look at this flag.
Whoa.
And this one has this guy's name on the back who wrote a few books on UFOs. Now, I haven't really looked at this to write up a description yet, but like, look, the UFO, I don't know what the hell that is, but
It looks like a UFO convention.
And there's even a negative. I don't know, you probably can't see, but there's a flying saucer in there. And
You should have that printed.
Like how can you fake that? There probably is a way, but I don't know. But I think it's really cool. And
it looks like
Lee and Richard, are you believers?
I actually am not. I'm going to say it this way. Nobody's convinced me that they don't exist.
I think that's a very good answer. I think I saw one. I saw something one time out the window in a building in Emory, but who knows?
My neighbor's a pilot, and he said he saw something go in front of his plane one time. So, and it's a big, vast universe. How can we say we're the only forms of life?
Sure.
So,
I'm a believer, and I also believe that if they're smart enough to get here, they're smart enough to have the ethics not to interfere with us. People say, well, if they've come here, how come they've never landed the ship and came out to talk to us? They know better. They're not trying to downgrade their intelligence by talking to us.
That may be a true statement, Ed.
Yes, we could do some damage to their gene pool, that's for sure.
What else you got there, Stacy?
I have some interesting photos from the 1893 Columbian exhibition in Chicago. They were all taken by this amateur photographer named Frank Bell, who was from New Hampshire. And what's interesting about them to me is their unusual views, because this is, what is this? Natives from South Sea Islands. I mean, you don't see that in usual photos from the Columbian exhibition.
You certainly don't see it in the postcards that we're familiar with.
Right. You see the same things. Yeah, you see the same kind of images from the same vantage point all this time. So these are very unusual.
You may be aware of this, but Stacy, but Kilburn, the stereo optic company,
Right.
they had the exclusive photo rights at the exhibition for reproduction. Yeah.
Oh, so maybe that's why we only see those images.
That's right.
Definitely, I looked this guy up, this Frank Ball. He was an amateur photographer. He printed them professionally looking, but they're amateur, and identified all of them on the backs. It's fabulous.
It'd be interesting to know what kind of equipment he used and how it's, today we do it with phones, but in 1893, you're hauling around big, heavy equipment, which must have been harder for him to do.
Well, by 1893, you could have a Kodak Brownie, so it wasn't as heavy as the past.
Well, you know a lot more about that than I do. I know some of the things you had in Boston were actually assemblages of stuff.
Collections, probably.
Collections, yeah. Do you have anything like that to show us here?
Oh. Well, I have some photos from Alaska that which are early, and most of them are identified within the negative. So you could see, on this one, what's it say? Governor's Residence, Dawson, Yukon Territory, 1906. And they're big and beautiful, which also, you don't always see this size, which is nice. This one's got a little damage, but it's beautiful.
What years were those from?
1906.
1906.
Yeah.
North to Alaska.
Would those been taken glass plate?
You're asking the wrong person. I know images. I'm really not into the
technology side.
Yes, but look at how beautiful that is.
That is great.
Yeah. Anyway, that's some of the stuff. Then I have a lot of sexualized kind of stuff that I love.
I think that's one thing I remembered from Boston.
Oh, did I have some
You had some, I know, I think, Richard, I think you were suggesting to some of us that we got to look at some of Stacy's stuff.
I probably did.
I think you did. We probably need to drop that subject.
She has a long history in that area.
Well, I like unusual things. So I'm drawn to different kinds of unusual kind of things outside.
No wonder you're such good friends with Richard. Just kidding, Richard. What do you got for us today?
Well, I thought I'd just show you a couple things that are a little unusual. This is a Walt Disney piece, and it's
Sleeping Beauty.
basic. Yeah, it's a cutout book, but this is in such perfect condition. The cutouts are still uncut, fully available to be assembled. But typical Disney in the 50s in this period, just brilliant colors, wonderful designs. And in this condition, I never see this piece. Usually, kids' books. What do the kids do? They use them and beat them. So that's a wonderful piece. And then I thought I would entice us with something a little more current. Sometimes treasures aren't always old. We know that specifically if you've been following the Harry Potter books, they're now running into the earliest of them are now running into six figures and up. So yeah, I know. And those books aren't even 25 years old, but so there's things to be paying attention to. So I became a real fan of this type of product. These were done roughly, they started doing them in about the year 2000. One of my favorites is the Babe Ruth book, and it has inserts in it. And like in the Babe Ruth book, they got a copy of his 1918 contract, and they've got facsimile copies of tickets and all kinds of historical items that you would go and see in a museum, but never get to touch. Now
These are tipped-in items.
Tipped in, and usually there's some kind of pocket. This is a book on Bob Dylan, as you can see, and this has wonderful graphics in it. And here's an example. This has got song lyrics to it. It's not open, so I'm not going to open it. This one comes with a CD. So there's always some kinds of little extra things. And they've done a whole series of these. There's one on Celine, I never pronounce it right.
Celine Dion?
Thank you. I said that, didn't I? And but there's some on history, with, again, artifacts of history tipped in so that when you're reading it, you can take them out of the pocket and look at them. I think these are going to be real collectible down the road. It's something people should be paying attention to, and they haven't been. And they're actually very hard to find. I pick every one up I can, and I don't have, 6 or 8 of them at this point. So I just thought I would introduce us to a new area. They're newer books, mostly in the last 20, 25 years for the most part, but not to be overlooked because they're a little bit more than than what we're used to. Then to just add to that, there is a new Harry Potter series coming out. It's a remake of all the originals, but it's a private, smaller press. I forget the name of it, and I call it an interactive book because it's internal to the book are pop-ups. There are some things that you open up and they become 3-dimensional, but they're not really pop-ups. And there's other art things. I mean, it's more of an experience with the book. And we're going to see more and more of that type of thing. They've done 3 of the titles so far. They're doing 1 a year. The 4th one should be coming out anytime now this fall. And again, and the young people who I see at shows like at Brimfield, they're aware of this already, and they're buying them.
So books and ephemera merging.
Yes, basically. Yep.
All right, folks, you heard it here first. Take that tip from Richard Mori. Buy today and hold on to it for a couple of years.
So who besides Bob Dylan and Babe Ruth do you have?
God, they're over on the shelf, and it's I went and looked, and I'm not remembering. I couldn't find the ones I was really looking for. I know I had 4 or 5 of them, but they're not where I thought they would be. So I couldn't.
Okay.
But I do. I know I've got, and I might have actually put them in a box to go to a show or
We
something.
are familiar with their not where I thought they were.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've been to Richard's warehouse, and I was lucky I could find Richard.
Well, the only reason you found me is I hadn't been shelved yet.
Now, Stacy, speaking of assemblages, you've got quite a collection there on the wall behind you. Are those things you're not ready to sell, or are those things that are
Well-
just so personal to you and family?
Well, I'm in my home right now, so those are things hanging on my wall. I
Oh,
mean,
okay.
honestly, everything's for sale for the right price. There's a couple of things that are sentimental, but
Sure.
yeah. But to get to Richard's point, photo books really since about 2000 are very popular right now, and people collect them. So it's like photo books from famous photographers and not so famous photographers. They're a big, they're all the rage now, as the kids say.
Yeah, I would guess photo albums too, if they've done well and they identify individuals or are topical, like a trip to Europe or a trip to
Nobody
Asia.
wants a photo album of a trip to Europe, Richard. But I'll just let you know that right now.
Yeah.
How are World War II albums doing? Soldiers who took pictures of their units, of the battlefield, of soldiers laying in their bunks, playing poker.
So that depends on where it was taken. So it can't be the home front. That one has to be in Europe, or Japan,
or Southeast Asia.
Yeah, or Asia. And it depends. Like a lot of the military guys want to see the equipment that was used, tanks and guns or whatever. I have one collector who loves photos when you can see the patches that the guys were wearing on their jackets and shirts.
Sure.
And then, there's all sorts of collectors. So
there's a collector for just about anything.
My parents
if we could find them.
Right. My parents were part-time antique dealers, and maybe you're going to cut this out. I don't know. But my mother used to always say, there's a collector for everything. People collect douchebags. And they do. Just go on eBay and take a look. And yeah. So
I thought you were talking about ex-boyfriends. You were actually talking about the sanitary product. Excuse me.
Yeah. So anyway.
Lee, how about you? Anything to share this week?
Well, I should have brought it in. I have a friend who does volunteer work with a children's shelter in Dalton, and they had bought a bunch of children's books. They actually bought them from somebody's estate, and things that they could not use. She has been trying to sell for several months now, and I have bought the Russian folktale pop-ups that I had earlier, came from her. And she brought me a big bin of stuff the other day that I haven't had a chance to go through, but there are some more pop-ups in there. And I think some of these go back to the 40s. And I know there was one fold-out one that needs some work that I want you to take a look at, because if it were repaired, it might not be worth a lot, but it'd be kind of nice to have. But I haven't had a chance.
See what I can do.
I haven't had a chance to go through those yet. But there's probably maybe 50 books in that bin that I need to sort through. No, I've been working on magazines. I've been, proofing people's work and working on my own.
Yes, I know something a little bit about that. You could have my second draft by the end of the day.
Oh, okay.
Hint, hint. I got it, Lee.
Well, I know.
My article is due.
What we need are more people writing articles. That's what we need.
All right, well, let's start canvassing then.
Yes, perhaps Stacy would like to do that.
Oh no. Sorry.
All right, Richard. So when's this show and where is it?
Well, Books in Boston, November 9th, Saturday. Doors open at 8 a.m. and we're going to have, I think, a couple surprises we're working on that I'm going to hold off on. But there's a couple things that might happen this year that haven't happened before around the show.
My mouth is watering. I can't wait to see what's going to happen.
Sign-ups are going well. We're really pleased with the public, with the dealer response, and we're anticipating a really great event once again.
Great.
It was really fun. And the opportunity to go to the international show was great too. And it was just amazing Saturday morning when people were lined up at 7 o'clock. Out in the lobby of the hotel.
It was a great show. It was very well run. And I'm looking at you, Richard.
Yeah, I'll send you your 25. I'll send you your 25-cent check later.
Yeah, okay. Ooh, rich. It was a great show, and I'm really looking forward to doing it again this year.
And I am looking forward to at some time in the future when I have completely recovered from last year's show. Being back.
Just as a little sidebar. The ABA dealers themselves, most of them are actually going to be staying at the Hilton this year and not at the Sheraton. So we're real pleased to have them having to walk literally by our doors to get out of the building.
Right. Yay.
A good time will be had by all. November 9th, the Hilton in Boston. Books in Boston. Richard Mori, proprietor.
And Dwayne Stevens. Don't forget Dwayne.
Well, you have to get Dwayne on the show sometime.
Well, we can do that. He's been on. He was on last year.
That's right. Yeah. Okay, everybody. Thanks for joining us again for another edition of the Rare Book Cafe, the Book Lovers Rendezvous. Whoa, Stacy's wanting to get out of here. She's waving goodbye. I can't blame you,
well, thanks so much for being with us, Stacy. And Richard, of course, how could we do the show without you?
All right. Have a great day, guys.
Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, wherever good podcasts are given away for free, that's where you can find us. Thanks for joining us today, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.